stuff yet. So I'm on my page. So let me try. There we go.
Okay, I see him now. Yeah.
Okay. So just to kind of review, I'm selling an analytics software tool. So these are kind of the questions I normally ask.
Okay. I mean, we can either go through them or we could kind of talk about where your deals get stuck. How would you like to use the time most effective for you?
So what's happening is that, I'm doing asking the questions. So, I've had really good luck with people connecting with me in LinkedIn. I send them a note saying, I saw your profile. I'm interested in connecting, blah, blah, blah. People connect with me a lot. And then I kind of follow up with a thank you for connecting with me. And several people have then kind of continued on a conversation in LinkedIn. And typically what I ask is, what kind of analytic tools are you using in your current work? And if they don't say the tool that I sell, they'll say something like Excel, or they'll say something else, along these lines, like in these questions. And I guess at some point, I know, we want to try to get to the problem they have and try to figure out how to solve it with, how our product solves their problem. But they don't really see themselves as having a problem because they use other tools, which could be more time consuming or could cause them to have to do a lot of quality assurance, but they don't really see that as a problem. They just think that's part of their job. So I kind of get stuck with, how do I get from, okay, these are the tools I'm using and they work great, to, yeah, but here's our tool and it could save you time and energy and testing and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So if they don't perceive a problem, then you're going to get nowhere with them.
Right.
So what problem will they run into with the other tools?
So if they're coding themselves, then there's the quality assurance problem, right? Because they could mess up their coding. And also it takes a lot of time. People say, oh, well, these are open source tools and they're free. But I mean, time is money, so they're not really free because it takes time to code and everything. But some people like to code, and they like doing that. But the problem my product solves is they wouldn't have to do as much coding and it could save them time.
Right. But you got to get them to focus on what they care about.
Right.
Okay. So that's the point of the questions.
So I guess I'm having a hard time getting to that. If I'm connecting with them on LinkedIn, I'm not really uncovering like their problem yet. I can't figure out how to uncover the problem. I guess what I'm saying.
Okay. So on LinkedIn, are they telling you how they're solving the problem today?
Yeah, I'll ask them, like, I'll say, do you work with data? What kind of tools are you using? And they'll tell me, like, for instance, a guy today told me that he's using Excel, which is usually not a very good tool for doing any kind of deep analytics. And then he's using R and Python to like kind of supplement that, to do his statistics. So I haven't really responded to him yet, but really he could save a lot of time if he just used one tool, like our tool, to do all of that and not have to do like part of it in Excel and then code in R or Python to create his statistics. He could actually use our tool to do all that.
Yeah. So what I recommend is, you're in your world, you've got to get into their world. And what does it make a list of, like, what are the top 3 things if they're coding, how does that impact them? It takes up time, it's error prone, it's customized, it's not adaptable, it's side work versus their job.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then apply like the questions course to that. Like, what if you didn't have to, what if you could spend all your time on whatever their job is versus coding.
Hmm.
And I get it. If they like to code, they don't care.
Right.
Or if they don't have deadlines, they don't care. That's probably, they're not going to buy no matter what then. If it was free or you paid them, they're not going to buy it. So if they don't care, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Regardless.
Yeah. So getting them focused on allocating their time in the most productive way, being able to get the outcome that they want.
Yeah, I guess it's hard because a lot of these folks are people who don't like to change. You know, they are kind of been doing the same thing for a really long time. But when you show them like our tool, a lot of people come around. It's getting them to come around, you know.
Okay. You can take maybe a slower approach to get their feedback on your product. Say I'm new to the space. I don't know what folks like you really care about. Could I get your feedback on our approach to see if it's the right approach?
Yeah, that's a good one.
You're right. People get in a rut, and the spreadsheet, although may not do everything, they're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
It's like learning a CRM. It's like it'll pay off eventually, but for the first 3 months, it's just work.
Yeah. Okay. And that's good because I do have a new territory, so I can really, say that like for real,
It is real. And I think that you got to get that conversation started before you can get into the real issues.
The other thing I'm kind of running up against is, I have a new territory and all that, and I've got, my management breathing down my neck with, okay, we want to see a certain amount of demos every week, a certain amount of opportunities created every week. I've kind of got them breathing down my neck to do that. And this is like it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Right.
And I'm struggling with that part of like, how do I push this along quicker without, rushing them, but also answering the mail with, my management to say, okay, we need more. That's a difficult balance.
Well, I mean, do they really need to see it, or can you just put something into a CRM to make it?
Well, I can't really, because I have a sales engineer that they monitor their demos, and that sales engineer works for a different person. Okay. And they have to put in our CRM, like every time they do a WebEx or a demo, whether it's an in-person or online, they measure all that stuff. This is the bad thing about working for an analytics company. Is they just analyze in every kind of metric you can imagine, So, yeah, it's hard. You can't really fudge it, and everything is tied to our CRM. So it's.
And do you get comped on those?
Not on how many meetings I have or anything like that. But they are, and I have a new manager, somebody who hasn't managed people in the past. Yeah. So she's very like, okay, I want to see how many meetings you're having every week, that kind of thing. So that part is a struggle to try and, because I totally agree with your method. I feel like I have a lot more success when I really sit and try and figure out what the customer's problem is and solve that, as opposed to pushing my product down their throat, which is what my sales engineer that I used to have would do. And he was really off-putting to a lot of people. So that part, I get it. It's just, it's a time thing and trying to get them to that point quicker is the challenge. And, a lot of times these conversations go back and forth in LinkedIn, and I've suggested a couple times, hey, you want to go, here's my email if you want to reach me via email, because I'm not always on LinkedIn. And I kind of lose people when I do that. They kind of just go silent.
They go silent on LinkedIn, or they?
Yeah. They'll just kind of stop. If I suggest, hey, here's my email address, would it be easier to email or something like that? It's like they get afraid or something and they kind of
Oh,
stop.
well, how about this? I mean, you can determine their email address, or
Yeah,
in some cases. I mean,
yeah,
your market's harder because they typically don't have uniform emails in some cases. I would just take it onto email and not ask.
okay.
Yeah, just say, "Hey, we were talking on LinkedIn,
Oh
and
yeah, good
yeah,
idea.
I hope you don't mind. I just thought I'd email you since you seem to be and that add a compliment to it without an ask."
Okay. So the other thing I'm running into on LinkedIn is my people are not real active. So complimenting them is kind of hard to do. Although I'm getting better at it. A couple of them I've asked, like, what does your job entail? And they'll tell me, like 20 things. And it's, then you can easily compliment, like, wow, you look really busy and you've got a lot going on. And I can kind of throw compliments in there. But most of my people are not real active. They're on there, but they're not in the news. They haven't posted anything. They're just kind of out there.
Yeah.
So is that kind of what you do? Is you kind of say, hey, what is your job like, or something along those lines?
No, I start if there's something that you can compliment them on personally. So you can like Google their name and their agency or company, see if anything comes up. It could be years old,
Yeah.
and just say, "Crazy me, I just stumbled on this."
Okay.
If you can't find anything with them, maybe their department or division. And if you can't find anything on that, their location. If you can't find anything on that, their company, agency, and just say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm looking to network with kind of experts like yourself. I just heard about this. Congratulations."
Yeah. Okay.
And don't overthink it. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised, people, because nobody does it.
Yeah. Well, I've had good success just thanking people for connecting with me. You wouldn't believe how many people respond back and say, well, they'll say something to me like, you're welcome or my pleasure. And then they kind of ask something, or they'll say, what do you do? Or, something along those lines.
Yeah, because
Um,
your market, certainly no one talks to these people, right? you know, and um, and I always found, and don't take this the wrong way, that women do better selling to men, especially scientists, engineers, because they just don't interface with women.
yeah.
And it's just so much more natural.
Hmm.
So because I started as kind of a sales engineer for a woman, and we would go to trade shows. And by the end of the day, we were at the bar with all the colonels, you know,
Yeah.
and I was just shuffling drinks back and forth. But it just, you know, they could care less what we did,
Yeah.
and it's just a social thing. I just think it's just more natural.
It is in this. I used to work in the satellite communications industry, and I worked mostly in the DoD, and it was very easy in that world. I felt a lot more comfortable in that industry. I've been in it a long time. I really knew my stuff. Working in the analytics world, it's a completely different type of engineer. They are a lot of them are foreign, or they're just real, like really just hard to relate to. And I can relate to like a brick wall usually, but some of the foreign guys that are like Chinese geneticists and things like that, I really, really struggle with kind of trying to find something, to talk about. The language barrier sometimes is a factor as well. Um, but I feel like I'm kind of getting better at it and more comfortable with it. But you're right. I think it is more natural. I've gotten some really creepy
That's true too. That's
messages
the
on.
downside of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten some creepy ones on LinkedIn. I've gotten some really cheesy sales pitches on LinkedIn. I should forward them to you. You can use them in your course as an example of what not to do.
Uh,
There's some really bad ones, but I guess the part where I get stuck is, you know, they'll go down a rabbit hole of a question, and I'm like, okay, you know, I got to go figure out what they're talking about, you know, and how our product would solve that, and that takes time for me to, because I don't have that kind of statistical background or um, analytic background to really understand what they're asking or what they're talking about.
yeah.
So it's hard to figure out how to automate that or how to make that. I don't think you can.
Is that something you can delegate to your system engineer or your sales engineer?
Yeah, I think once I get one, yeah, he's and they're in the process of bringing one on board. Yeah, so I think so. Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, when so I do ask about like their strategy. You know, what type of strategy are you looking? Are you thinking of? What do you think about asking kind of that question?
I
Or
like it. It's nice, open ended. It puts the onus on them. It
mhm,
and you'll kind of, if they're that type of person, because that's a forward asking question, like a vision, gets them out of the current moment.
yeah,
Um, have you kind of like answered the question, we solve the problem of, or people come to us when?
I haven't actually. It's um, it's broad. It's a broad because we our tool is pretty deep. Sometimes it's a really broad question. We solve a lot of problems, so I don't know often if the problem they, you know, if they tell me what their problem is, if they tell me what their challenge is, then I can say, okay, yeah, we solve that problem. But to try and guess what it is like, you know, that could be, there could be a lot of things we solve that they don't even know they have that problem.
Yeah. So then you got to kind of come up with questions about how do you get them to realize they have that problem. So maybe start with what is the problem? You know, whether it's the top three. Otherwise, what you have is the blind leading the blind. Yeah, they don't know what you do, and you don't know what they need.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I asked a couple questions to this one guy, and he responded back. He's like, "Why are you asking me this?" And I wasn't sure how to respond to that. You know, I was just asking very open ended questions, like, you know, how do you handle your data? You know, are you guys, you know, this basically what's your strategy or whatever? And he got very defensive. So um,
Yeah, I think the playing dumb part, I'm new to this. I'm trying to network around, kind of see where the market is, what people care about. So I thought I'd reach out to the thought leaders, the experienced people, just appreciate any coaching.
okay, okay. Any other ideas on what you think I could do to kind of help it along quicker?
Um, I think the quickest way in any sale is to engage with people.
Mhm.
So people always want, like, I want them to buy. Well, those people come to you. When you're doing cold outreach, what you want is just an open dialogue so that they can go from curious, like, why are you asking this, to interest. Um, you know, so you have to start, you're at the, this is who we are, what we do.
Mhm.
And you're asking them to map that to what they need or do. And very few people are willing to do that.
Yeah.
But what you have to do is start where they are and say, well, what we hear is people stuck writing code, maintaining spreadsheets, and spending all their time with that, the same way salespeople are spending time doing the bullshit that their manager wants versus what works.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, you know, that's everyone's world, right?
Yeah.
So getting them to that, I mean, because you have a good sense of what they're using today and what the issues are with it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good understanding of what some of the other tools are and how they work and some of their weaknesses and stuff. Yeah. And we never want to keep them, like say, you shouldn't use that tool or whatever, because a lot of government customers have stuff they built in Excel or they built in some other tool and they can't just like walk away from it. So we interact very well with other tools. And that's, I guess, another thing I could throw in there is, we're not looking to upset their apple cart. We're just looking to add to it, right? To make their life easier. Instead of, reworking something that they created in Excel, they can actually just bring it into our tool and visualize it better.
Yeah.
So but sometimes getting to that conversation, you got to kind of get past the first few, like, oh, I don't want to hear about this, kind of feelings until you get to that point. That's why I said a lot of people really come around when they see it. And that's why our company really pushes the demos, because people really come around and it's not expensive. So that really even makes it better. It's not like I'm selling an enterprise-wide thing that costs millions of dollars. It costs, like less than $2,000. So once they see it, they really like it and are like interested. It's just getting them, to that point. So starting where they are.
Yeah, and you don't have to position it as a replacement. You can position it as an alternative.
Okay.
So that they could have spreadsheet, competitive product, and you. Because you don't care.
No.
Right. As long as they buy your product, that's all you care about.
Yeah, I mean, we want them to use it so other people will get it and spread, But yeah, it's not like I want to displace anybody else, because most analysts have multiple tools in their toolkit. They don't have just one. So
yeah. And I think your product is the type of thing where you got to get them, just a little bit in, where they start using it. And as long as they use it enough to justify the cost, they'll keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of these baby steps of making it aware to them, getting them to try it, getting them to see some benefit from it.
Yeah.
And this is where you can kind of get the credit for the demos, is start making multiple calls with your engineer through the sales process and call them all demos, even though it's the same person.
Yeah, I don't know. They have kind of like these strict rules about it. Yeah. But I can let my engineer deal with that part. So.
That and let's say every manager gives you rope once you have sales. Then they don't. Yeah. They get away from the activity BS.
Okay. Any other suggestions you think I should try?
Yeah, I'd go through the problems that you solve, list them separately, then try and create the question to go through curiosity. I like your questions. They're very, close the deal. And the problem with that is it turns it into binary instead of when you buy versus if you buy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you had the mindset of you're going to buy this, it's just a matter of time, as opposed to are you going to buy it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're already at no, they're not going to buy it. So our job is to get them to buy it. And you get it. That's why I have like that curiosity stage. And then how do you build interest? And then you have like the demo where you're showing it to them. Then you get that transfer of ownership where they're using it, or you want to just have them buy it or buy it for a month or get them to do something.
Yeah. Sometimes people will go down the path of doing a trial, but I told you on the phone, I don't like that because I feel like it slows it down. So I just say, just get it for a year. It's so cheap,
Yeah.
So, especially the government customers, because they get a huge discount. So,
yeah. And if that works, it works. It's great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then you can always go back. You can backpedal.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I didn't think about listing our problems out separate that we solve separately. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Because the more you think like them, the closer you'll get to having these questions just pop into your head. Because as salespeople, what are we focused on? We got to close stuff.
Yeah.
And, if we can't close stuff, we got to get our managers off our back. Right. So, and it just forces us to think the wrong way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It does. It's very frustrating because, like I said, I totally believe in what you're saying, but then I got these people, that think totally differently. They're not the ones that have to go out there every day and sell stuff. They're just sitting in a room saying, okay, well, she's not doing enough demos this week.
Yeah. And instead of trying to help you, they're just trying to manage your activity.
Yeah.
And it's just brain dead.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be sitting down with you going through things like this.
Yeah.
What are you up against? Where are things stalling? How do you build out your process?
Yeah.
Because the inbound stuff you just treat differently. They're inbound. You show them a demo. You persuade them. You have them take action. But cold stuff, they're not sitting around. They don't even know you.
Yeah.
You take the pitch approach. It's like repellent. You might as well, go to the spa and have fun.
But that's kind of what they do, though. I mean, that's what is rewarded. Is because every once in a while you'll hit a lot, doing that. It makes me very uncomfortable because I don't like being approached like that. But and I came from a place where our sales cycles were much longer, so you had to build that rapport. You had to build, that relationship. Whereas here, it's just there's this mentality of just sell it. They'll love it when they see it. Just get in front of them, and it's somewhat true. But like you said, when it's cold, it's a little different.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And people think, oh, you got to find that 1 in 100. Well, why not take 30 out of 100 and find the ones that are most likely to do something, where they have recognized some level of pain, some level of problem, and they're curious. Then they build into interest and forget about the other 70.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Well, I have a meeting with my management tomorrow, so I think I'll regurgitate some of that. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate the help, and I'll probably talk to you at the thing it's Friday is your office hours again, right?
Yeah, this Friday.
Okay, great.
I'll see you then.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.